Hey all, JTC here, and welcome back to another tier list video. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be talking about which careers make the best and worst bots in Vermintide. Now, you might realize or notice that I actually do have an F tier in this tier list, which I don't normally include because, as I've said before, I don't really believe anything in this game is worthy of an F tier, with the exception of some careers on bots. Now, why is that? Bots in Vermintide are not that good. They're kind of dumb. They're very slow to react a lot of the times. They make really stupid mistakes. They don't deal a lot of damage, and they're just really all around worse than players in most cases. What makes a good bot, though, is a career that is able to A, have a good amount of survivability, and B, provide some kind of usually passive utility to the team. Which is why we're going to be starting with the F tier, which is why all of these careers just immediately go into the F tier. They have no defensive capabilities, they have no utility capabilities that are useful to the team, and most of the time they're going to be dying very, very quickly, even if you were to, say, put a shield on Kruber or Barton. And at the end of the day, a dead bot is the worst thing that you can have in this game, which is why for these careers you should just never, ever pick them. Now, moving on to the C tier, normally you might think that I would want to put Waystalker in F tier, and normally I would agree, but there's only really one reason why I'm putting a Waystalker in F tier or in C tier. C tier is kind of this weird tier where a lot of these careers should either be B or F, but there is one thing that either raises them up a bar or raises them down a bar. But for Waystalker, she would normally be F tier, but the thing that makes her C tier is that if you put on Piercing Shot on her, she actually, every so often, goes really, really ham with the ult, and will absolutely just shred a bunch of specials or shred a bunch of elites back to back, and it's really mesmerizing to watch. But other than that, she's not really a good bot, and you should not really pick her. Now, Ranger Vet can actually make a decent bot. You could make an argument for B tier. However, his just general squishiness and the really poor timing that he has with his ult a lot of the times it just ends up getting him smacked down, which is why I would put him in C tier. He's not quite F tier because he does have some genuinely amazing passive abilities, such as, I think the biggest one is Potion and Bomb Drop. You can just basically have a Potion and Bomb dispenser on your team with a Ranger Vet bot, and that really, really helps boost him up, or keep him out of F tier. And the other thing that keeps him out of F tier is that if you actually put a Masterwork pistol on him, he can actually go ham with it every so often and shred bosses, which is really, really nice to have as well. Now, for Grail Knight I would put normally in B tier. However, there is one thing which drops him down to C tier, and it's that sometimes he will get stuck in his ultimate ability. And what I mean by that is, it's funny to watch. What he'll do is he'll hold up his ult, and he'll run towards a slave rat 5,000 miles away, and he'll solo ult it. And it's really funny to watch, but a lot of the time, that's actually super detrimental, and it's going to get him killed more often than not. Now, this doesn't happen all the time, but it happens often enough that it drops him from B down to C. Because you could rely on him, but because of this weird bug, he's just not as reliable as other classes. Now, starting us off in the B tier, we're actually going to put Zealot. Zealot, I feel like, is just kind of the mediocrity of bots in Vermintide. He's not bad, but he's not really good for a couple of reasons. He's not bad because he actually is very, very tanky, and if you run a damage reduction build on him, he can take a lot of punishment. But the problem is, the reason he's not that good is because his utility requires him to actually... The utility that you get from Zealot requires that a player actually be playing him and be making conscious decisions. And this is most obvious with his level 30 talents. If you want to get a lot of use out of his level 30 talents, which is where a lot of his survivability comes from in the cases, and survivability and utility comes from, a bot's not going to be able to make use out of that. And therefore, that utility and extra damage and in some cases survivability is going to be lost, which is why I would place him in B tier. Not a bad option, but I think you can do better. Battle Wizard is next up in B tier. She has insane damage potential for a bot, which is what keeps her kind of up there. She actually has some of the highest damage potentials for a bot, if I'm not mistaken. But the problem is, because she doesn't really have a shield option, she's pretty squishy and dies pretty easily. So if you kind of want a glass cannon of a bot, you can take Battle Wizard, but otherwise, yeah. Next up is Unchained. Unchained, a lot of people might expect that I would put Unchained in A or S, but there is one specific reason why she's not in those and she's in B. She is incredibly tanky, that is true. However, when it comes to area of effect attacks or anything that would rapidly build her overcharge, such as Rattlings, Warp Fire Throwers, Blightstormers, Globadiers, she tends to not run away from them, but tends to run to them because she is a melee-focused career that does have a ranged attack, but for the most part, she's going to be using her melee weapon. And because of that, she's going to be running directly into danger, which is going to cause her to overheat really, really fast. And if she has her ult, it's not that big of a problem, but when she loses her ult, she's still going to be running into those dangers, and she's going to overheat and die very, very quickly. This wouldn't be as much of a problem if she had a shield that she could use to block like Rattlings, but she doesn't. Unfortunately, Fat Shark, please give Sienna a shielded weapon, and until that happens, she's going to stay in B for that reason. Shade up is next. Now, you might expect that I would actually put Shade in kind of a lower tier. And you normally would be right, because she doesn't really have any defensive capabilities. She has some nice offensive capabilities, but her utility and her defensive capabilities are lacking. However, there is this really strange phenomenon with Shadebot that I can't put my finger on, because it's so incredibly strange, but it's absolutely awe-inspiring to watch. A lot of the times, most of the times, Shadebot was going to perform as you would expect a bot to perform. However, every so often, a Shadebot, and it's specifically Shadebot, no other bot does this, it's specifically Shade. Every so often, Shade will become an absolute beast at the game. The Shadebot would put me and Moop Shark and New Type to shame. It's like watching somebody turn on aimbot hacks. I can't explain it. She just becomes an absolute legend, and it's just mind-blowing to watch her do incredibly well, dodge dancing bosses and flick-shotting specials from the air and pinpoint dodging everything. I don't know why it happens, but just for that very reason, I think she's B. I don't know. It's not common for it to happen. It's quite uncommon, but just that one thing makes me want to put her in B and not in C, because otherwise I definitely think she would be a C tier bot. But I'm going to leave her in B for that very reason. Next up is Slayer. Slayer is also going to go in B because he actually is probably like the most well-balanced bot when it comes to damage versus defense. He has no utility when it comes to like team-wide stuff, but when it comes to defense, if you were to put the heavy attack damage reduction talent, or honestly any of his damage reduction talents, he actually gets a decent amount of damage reduction, and he can actually keep up a decent amount of damage as well. Now, because he's a bot, he's still going to die kind of quickly because he is melee only, and he's going to kind of run into the same problem as Unchained is going to run into. But if you're looking for like a nice balance between damage and defense, Slayer is not a bad choice. Next up is Sister. I'm not going to lie, I don't know where to put Sister of the Thorn right now. Post-nerf or post-change, because I really haven't gotten the chance to play with her as a bot that much. My best guesstimate is that she would actually do well in B tier. Just because of the amount, just the sheer utility that she brings to the team with the extra temp HP and the Black Venom blades and the debuff ult, not the wall, but the circle one that replaced Blood Razor. Just all of those are just such good utility that simply having a Sister of the Thorn on the team as a bot would 100% be worth it for that alone. And then lastly, for the B tier, we're going to be talking about Handmaiden. Handmaiden is just okay. She's nothing more, nothing less. If you slap on a shield onto her, she can actually survive pretty well, but she doesn't offer much in the way of utility to the team, and her defensive capabilities especially when not running a shield, are kind of subpar, and her ultimate doesn't really help the team that much. It really only helps herself, which does help her stay alive, but if you don't give her the invisibility talent, she's going to be dying a lot more often than not, and with just how the invisibility works, most of the time that's going to be screwing you over, and she's definitely not going to be thinking about not invising when it's inopportune for you, if that makes sense. So because of that, she's B. Yeah. But moving on, we're actually going to be talking about some A-tier classes now for bots, starting with Witch Hunter Captain. Witch Hunter Captain offers a lot of utility to the team in the form of tagging, extra crit chance, and his shout is also utility, and he also has a lot of defensive capabilities as well, including his shout, extra dodge distance, extra stamina regen, and the sword. Now, to be fair, Witch Hunter Captain does not have that many defensive capabilities, but he does have some, and the fact that his utility is so incredibly high, he makes a very solid choice for a bot. Realistically, any career with an AoE shout is just going to be really good, because it's very simple for the bot to use, and it's very hard to have a useless shout. Most shouts are going to be very useful in some capacity, which is why when you're selecting a bot, you should really choose a bot that has a shout first and foremost. Next up is Footknight. Footknight is an excellent choice for a bot. He has insane defensive capabilities. He can stay alive super easy. He has a lot of temp health gain, and he has a lot of utility that he brings to the team. And he has the option to put on a shield, which helps him deal with Rattling Gunners. Now, the only reason, normally you might think that I would put him in S tier, and you would be correct, but there is one reason why he is not S tier and he is only A tier, and that is because of his charge. Now, his charge is incredibly useful for utility and is an incredibly good defensive tool as well. However, the problem with the charge is that you actually have to aim it. And while in most cases, the Footknight bot does not have problems aiming his charge, and he does get really good use out of his charge, every so often he will bork his charge, and the charge will either be not as useful as it could have been, or he'll just miss completely and it'll be useless. Now, to clarify, it's not common for that to happen, which is why he is a very good bot, but every so often you'll kind of have a borked charge. Next up, we're going to be talking about Warrior Priest. Warrior Priest makes a really good bot, not necessarily because of the utility that he gives the team. He does give the team utility, don't get me wrong, but the more important thing is that the defensive capabilities for him are really good. Slap on a shield on him and throw on United in Prayer, and it's going to be really hard to kill a Warrior Priest bot. Now, the only caveat to this is you do have to babysit the Warrior Priest just a little bit to make sure that, like a Warp Fire or a Rattling doesn't delete him, because he has no way to deal with it. But with his invulnerability ult, he can actually stay alive for quite a while, and like I said, if you slap on United in Prayer, he's going to be able to give it to another teammate, which is just going to be really great. Now, finally, we have our remaining two careers that are going to go into the S tier as the best bot classes that you can take. And we're going to start actually with Mercenary. Mercenary is a fantastic bot choice, one of the best, because he has a very good mixture between utility, defense, and damage. He can put out for a bot a decent amount of damage, but the more important thing is he has incredibly good defensive capability options with his ult, which gives him temp HP, his ability to get temp HP really easy, as well as talents like Blade Barrier, which just reduces the damage taken. And then, of course, utility that he offers, he has Strike Together, which he can give to his entire team. He has his ult, which gives temp HP, and he just brings so much to the table that there's really no reason not to have a Mercenary Kruber on team if you want a really good bot. And then lastly, the best bot right next to Mercenary Kruber is going to be Ironbreaker. Ironbreaker is the epitome of defensive bot. If you want a bot that's not going to die, you take Ironbreaker, because realistically, nothing short of a miracle is going to kill an Ironbreaker bot. The best thing that a bot can do is block, and holy shit, Ironbreaker bot can block like there is no tomorrow. And especially if you throw on Waystalker, he will definitely take a lot of aggro away from you and your team and allow you to do a lot of work. And with that, that is my tier list for all of the bots in Vermintide. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like and subscribe for more Vermintide content in the future. See y'all next time.